She was sitting across from me, twisting the ring on her finger the way she always did when she was nervous, and she looked up, those brown eyes steady, serious, and she said it. "Don't fall in love with me, okay?" Just like that. Like it was a warning label. Like she already knew. And I laughed. I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear and I said, "Okay. I won't." We were both lying. But only one of us knew it. My name is Leah. And this is the story of Maya, the girl who told me exactly how this would end, before it even began. I've never told this story out loud before. Not fully. Not the parts that actually matter. I've told the surface version, "Oh, we were just friends. It got complicated. Whatever." But that's not the truth. The truth is messier. The truth involves me sitting in a parking lot at midnight, crying to a playlist she made me, wondering how I let myself become someone who ignored every single sign. So today, I'm telling the whole thing. From the first night we met, to the last time I saw her face. And I want you to really listen, because somewhere in this story, there is a version of you. I promise. Before I get into it, I need you to understand something about Maya. She was not a villain. She was not a player. She was not someone who set out to break me. She was something far more dangerous than that. She was honest. From the very first night, she told me the truth. She handed me the map, pointed to the cliff, and said, "Don't go there." And I took that map, studied it, and walked straight off the edge anyway. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to understand something that nobody ever really talks about, why the most painful heartbreaks aren't caused by liars or cheaters, but by someone who was nothing but honest with you, every single step of the way. I wasn't ready for that lesson. Maybe you are. It was October. One of those nights where the air is cold enough to feel sharp in your lungs, but you don't want to go inside because outside feels more alive somehow. My friend Danny threw a small get-together at her place. Fairy lights, candles, someone playing an acoustic guitar badly in the corner. The kind of night that feels like it matters before anything's even happened. I was standing in the kitchen, pouring myself something to drink, when she walked in. Maya. She was wearing an oversized cream sweater, dark curls loose around her face, and she was laughing at something, this full, unguarded laugh that made the whole room feel warmer. Danny introduced us. Maya looked at me, tilted her head slightly, and said, "You have sad eyes." But not in a bad way. I blinked. "No hello. No nice to meet you. Just, you have sad eyes." I said, "That's a weird thing to say to a stranger." She shrugged. "I say what I see." And that was it. That was the moment I was already in trouble and had absolutely no idea. We ended up talking for 4 hours. Just the two of us, eventually drifting to the back porch, sitting on the steps with our knees almost touching, sharing a blanket she grabbed from inside without asking me if I wanted one. She just brought it back and threw half of it over my lap. We talked about everything. Her obsession with old bookshops. My fear of silence that goes on too long. The way she'd moved cities twice trying to outrun a version of herself she didn't like. The way I stayed in places too long for the same reason. And then, somewhere around 2 a.m., when the party had quieted to just a few murmured conversations inside, she got a little serious. She looked at the sky and said, almost to herself, "I'm not good at this, you know. Connection. I do it too fast and then I disappear." It's not something I'm proud of. I looked at her. She looked back. And then she said it, softly, "Don't fall in love with me, okay? I mean it. I'm telling you now so you can't say I didn't." I remember the exact feeling in my chest. Like a door swinging open and a cold wind coming through. I smiled. I said, "Okay." She nodded, like we'd made a deal. Held out her pinky, actually. I linked mine with hers. We shook on it. I broke that promise so fast. The next 6 weeks were honestly some of the best of my life. And that's the part that's hard to explain to people who've never been in this situation. It wasn't toxic. It wasn't dramatic. There were no red flags screaming at me. It was just soft. And real. And so easy to fall into. Maya would text me at random hours. "I found a bookshop. You would hate it. It smells like dust and I love that for you." Or, "I made too much pasta. Come eat. Don't make it weird." So I'd go. And we'd sit on her kitchen counter eating straight from the pot, her playlists filling the apartment, her laughing when I burned my tongue because I was too impatient. We'd drive nowhere on Friday nights. She'd take turns at random just to see where we'd end up. We always ended up somewhere that felt like it was ours. She'd fall asleep on my shoulder during movies and I'd stay completely still for an hour because I didn't want to wake her. She'd call me, sometimes, just to talk. Not about anything important. Just to have someone on the line while she did the dishes, or walked home from work. "You're easy to be around," she told me once. "Most people exhaust me. You don't. Do you know what that does to a person who's falling for you? Do you know how that lands?" I held those words like they were something sacred. But here's the thing, she never stopped reminding me. Never let me forget what she'd said on that first night. When I texted her something maybe a little too sweet, she'd reply, "Hey. Remember our deal?" When I looked at her a second too long, she'd raise an eyebrow and say, "Leah." Just my name. Like a warning. Once, after a really long night where we'd talked about everything, our families, our fears, the versions of ourselves we were ashamed of, she pulled back. Got quiet. And said, "I don't want to hurt you. I genuinely don't. I don't know how to be what people need. I never have." I reached over and squeezed her hand. I said, "You're not hurting me." That was also a lie. Not because she was. But because I could already feel the shape of the hurt that was coming. And I chose to stay anyway. I want to stop here, because this is the part of the story nobody talks about. It wasn't that I didn't see it. I did. It's that I convinced myself that what we had was different enough to rewrite her ending. That I was patient enough. Soft enough. Safe enough. That she'd look at me one day and realize, "Oh. It's you. You're the one I don't want to run from." I wrote an entire love story in my head starring a girl who had already told me she couldn't be in it. That's the thing about hope. It doesn't ask for your permission. It just moves in and starts rearranging your furniture. It was a Wednesday evening in December. We were at her apartment. Christmas lights strung up because she said it made the dark feel less heavy. We were lying on her floor, not the couch, the floor, because she said the carpet was warmer, talking about nothing. And I don't know what happened. Something shifted. She turned her head to look at me, and for just a moment, one single, quiet moment, her walls came down. I saw it. This flicker of something real. Something she was trying to hold back. And without thinking, I said, Maya. I know what you said. I know we had a deal. But I have to be honest with you. I'm already there. I'm already in love with you. And I'm not saying that to pressure you. I just can't keep pretending I'm not. The room went completely still. She sat up. She didn't look at me right away. She twisted that ring on her finger, round and round and round. And then she said, quietly, I know. Just, I know. Not I feel the same. Not I've been fighting it too. Just, I know. And then, I'm so sorry, Leah. I told you from the start. I meant it. I don't know how to love someone and stay. I always leave. And you deserve someone who stays. I nodded. Very slowly. Like if I moved too fast, something would shatter. I picked up my jacket. I said, I know you did. Tell me. She walked me to the door. And right before I stepped out, she grabbed my wrist, gently, and said, You were the closest I've come. I need you to know that. I don't know if she meant it as comfort. It wasn't. I sat in my car for 40 minutes. Not crying at first. Just sitting. Staring at the steering wheel. And then I put on the playlist she made me in October, the one she titled, with absolutely zero self-awareness, Songs for Leah, and I cried the whole drive home. Because she hadn't lied to me. Not once. Not ever. And somehow that made it so much worse. It's been a while since that December night. And I've thought about it a lot. More than I should probably admit. Here's what I know now that I didn't know then: when someone tells you who they are at the very beginning, believe them. Not because they're broken. Not because they're incapable of love. But because they know themselves well enough to warn you. And that kind of self-awareness, that's actually rare. That's actually a form of care. Maya wasn't playing a game. She wasn't feeding off my feelings. She was doing the most honest thing a person can do. She was telling me her limitations before they became my wounds. I just didn't listen. And here's the other thing, the thing I really want you to hear: there is something specific about falling for another woman that can make this so much harder to navigate. Because women, we build intimacy differently. We share differently. We sit on floors together and talk about our childhoods and fall asleep on each other's shoulders, and it all feels like love even when it isn't, even when one person is just being exactly who they are, and the other person is translating every moment into something it was never meant to be. That's not anyone's fault. That's just the beautiful, complicated, devastating reality of how deeply women can connect, even when they're not trying to. So if you're listening to this and you're in the middle of your own Maya, I want you to ask yourself one honest question: are you seeing who she actually is, or who you need her to be? Because those are two very different women. And only one of them is real. I don't hate Maya. I couldn't if I tried. She gave me 4 hours on a porch in October that I'll remember for the rest of my life. She made me playlists and fed me pasta and told me the truth even when the truth was inconvenient. She taught me something no comfortable relationship ever could: that clarity is not rejection. That honesty before pain is an act of love. And that sometimes, the most important words someone will ever say to you are the first ones out of their mouth. Don't fall in love with me. She said it. I didn't listen. And I'd be lying if I said I'd change it, because loving her, even for a little while, even without it going anywhere, made me understand what I actually want. What I actually deserve. And I'm still waiting for the girl who says, fall in love with me. I'm not going anywhere. She's out there. So is yours. If this story felt familiar, drop a white heart in the comments. You're not alone in this. Not even close. And if someone in your life needs to hear this today, send it to them. Sometimes the right words at the right time change everything. I'll see you in the next one.